Hey, everybody. So, I have some exciting news. Next year, I'm thinking late spring or early summer, my book is going to be released. My book is called Sacred Revolution, and it's a book that details a journey of healing. And my book will be divided into four phases. And these are the phases of growth that when I was in my healing process and connecting with spirit, that spirit told me to detail in my book. And so much of my book is channeled. And a lot of my book is also taking those channeled messages and using my life as examples to really ground that information into to make it more easy to understand from our human perspective. I think our soul perspective understands the message really clear. So the first phase in my book, the first phase is know yourself. So much of the time we're living from these unconscious scripts. Carl Jung talked about it. Until we make the unconscious conscious, we live our life and think it's fate. And so the unconscious material needs to be made conscious. These are the things that we picked up in early childhood, beliefs that maybe were our parents, expectations that other people thrusted upon us that were never ours to begin with. And we have to start looking at what are the unspoken narratives that we carry so deep inside, right? The fear of failure, the fear of letting people down, people pleasing qualities that we have that we make decisions from instead of making them from a place of authenticity. So that's the first step, is becoming aware of those things. Step two is die. This doesn't mean to physically die. This means we have to kill off and integrate those old paradigms, those old ways of thinking that don't serve us anymore. Once we recognize them, this is where the rubber meets the road. And when I say die, it means we have to make a decision to live in our authenticity and to even recognize what that is. Sometimes we surrender our own needs for other people's approval, for perceived, not real, for perceived safety. And so in doing that, we live a life that's inauthentic to ourselves. So die simply means to let go, hands off, right? To choose to live for us, to put ourselves first, not in a selfish way. Because when we put ourselves first in a way that's aligned with spirit, it's in the highest good of us and the other people that involves. And sometimes old habits die hard. And even though it might be in the best good of your family member that you live for you, that you make that hard decision, that you change career paths, that you leave the church, whatever that looks like, it will cause them to have some kind of crisis that will make them reflect maybe on their own behavior. And they can choose to change or choose not to change, but that's not up to you anymore. We can't be manipulating other people's feelings by choosing ourselves last or betraying ourselves in that way. The third part of the book is rebirth. And this is about a spiritual rebirth. This is where we're trying new things. We're living more authentically. We're making decisions that are aligned with everybody's best good. And it feels really scary and really new here. So if you find yourself in phase three, be gentle with yourself because the world feels different. You're coming at it from a place of power, but like a toddler learning how to walk. I'm empowered because now I can navigate the world in this new way, but I'm wobbly. So be careful with yourself in this phase where everything feels kind of uncertain. And the last phase is to know yourself as creator. And this is the empowerment phase. This is where you realize who you are. And who you are is a divine fractal of God, creator, source itself. And when you realize that, you are not a victim to anything anymore because you know without a shadow of a doubt that everything that's happened to you in your life has actually happened for you. And it's happened for you in order for you to see the patterns that have been created in your life so that you can break them and you can become what you were meant to become. If you look back, there's this beautiful tapestry that's been woven, and it's your life. And everything has prepared you for where you are in this exact moment. And with 2025 quickly approaching, this book seems timely because what I can tell you as a psychotherapist is that people are feeling this. The time to heal is now because there's a shift happening. And I know you guys can feel it. So here's the cool thing. As we make these internal shifts and we are feeling called, it's a reckoning with our own spirit, right? It's a reckoning. And the harder you hold on and the harder you fight looking at the things that are hard for you to look at, the bumpier this ride is going to be, the bumpier this transition and this healing shift will be. When you surrender and you say, okay, I'm going to look at this stuff and I'm going to take the risk and I'm going to do the thing that's in alignment for me and for the world, it will be a smoother transition. But as above, so below. Micro, macro. The entire world is a reflection of what we're going through individually right now, but collectively. So 2025, according to numerology, is going to be a 9-year. If you know anything about numerology, then a 9-year is about endings. It's about transitions. It's about coming into power. It's about shifts. The way I look at our world is a lot like I look at most people's nervous systems. The unconscious is just now being made conscious. And the old consciousness that created the world that we live in today is no longer serving the current consciousness that's available on our planet because it's much higher. And COVID was a big part of ushering in this shift of consciousness. We all had a lot of realizations during that time. So what I see happening in 2025 is that a lot of what we call the darkness, let's say, and what is darkness? Darkness is just spaces in ourselves that we haven't examined and haven't looked at. The places we feel shame or guilt around. So it's dark. We haven't shined a light on it, right? To process it through our bodies. And the same is happening in our external world. We've been lied to. We've been manipulated. There's been a lot of corporate greed and there's been a lot of dishonesty in our regulatory systems. And my feeling going into 2025 is as so many people are shifting individually, it creates that butterfly effect throughout our planet where it's felt on a grander scale. And all of this darkness is going to be brought to light. And that doesn't mean that's not going to be hard, right? Because there are forces, there are powers, there's the 1%, there's the elite that are making these decisions, that are profitable, but not for all of our best good. And they're not going to want to let go of those things that are profitable. They're not going to want that paradigm to shift. So 2025 is going to be a bumpy ride. And our world is so polarized. So our job is to heal on the individual level, to keep ushering in these higher levels of awareness and consciousness, and to usher in this new vision, this new dream for the world, because the darkness will be brought to light. And I am seeing this as I sit here in my therapy office that you can see behind me every day as clients come in. There is a force, there is a supernatural force outside of ourselves that is creating the timing, the potency. It's almost as if you could reach up into the ethers and grab it. And it is making us look at ourselves in such a rigorously honest way so that we have to shift. And I'd love to hear if you're experiencing this too, because I know for me, this started, I'd say in 2023, maybe even sooner on a much smaller, less urgent scale. But 2022, 2023 was like, the time is now and there's no more putting it off. And I'm wondering if you guys are feeling that too. And as we move forward in this podcast, I'm going to be introducing different topics to you from my book, Sacred Revolution, so that we can talk about some of these concepts, because my book, it's going to be these 4 phases, but integrated into that is going to be evidence-based practice, psychotherapy tools that I've used in my own healing journey. And not only that, but sacred plant medicines and psychedelics that are right now on the forefront of being legalized. And some are. I use ketamine right here in my office with clients all the time that are perfectly legal to use. And so it's going to talk about how psychedelics are tools. There are tools for expanding awareness, expanding consciousness, and for ushering in mystical experiences that help us get into these non-ordinary states of consciousness that can really expand us outside of the paradigm of this radical duality that we're seeing on our planet right now. So people are real quick to want to label things as good or bad, as right or wrong. And we will get deeper into the psychedelic conversation and talk about that. But what I'm here to tell you is that all these things are just tools, and tools are neutral. Tools are neither good nor bad. Now, the consciousness that's behind the tool is what can make it a good or a bad tool, if you want to label it. Just like Google, we could open up Google and we could learn how to make brownies, or we could open up Google and we could learn how to do something destructive with it. It's the consciousness, but we all have access. We all have access. And so the consciousness behind these tools is what makes it what it is. So it's our job individually to harness our power, to take it back, and to know what it means to be human. And as we heal and we step into the divinity that we are, and we tap into supernatural forces, we learn how to stop giving our power away and how to triumph over these systems, these oppressive systems, so that the next generation doesn't have to. Because we're the generation that has been sent here to feel these things, to know these things, so that the next generation can be nurtured, right, into the huge potential of consciousness that they have available to them without these painful portals of trauma that our generation has had to go through to feel it all, not only for ourselves, but for all the generations prior to us, right? Because they were too oppressed to feel. And so when we're healed and we stop blaming and we stop looking for a savior outside of ourselves, and we take our power back, because we can literally bring the energy of the savior into our heart and become that, we start to heal, and we start to heal the divide. So I am looking forward to sharing so much more of the concepts in my book with you. And I will be doing that on this podcast in little bits and pieces over time. But again, please drop me a line. Please let me know if you guys are experiencing this too. Leave a comment here on this podcast. And I want to know if you guys are feeling the same sense of urgency, the same shift that I'm feeling, because I feel it in the air. And I have some ideas about what that is that I will share with you. But today I just wanted to kind of quickly introduce my book and some of its concepts. Have a great day, everybody, and let me know if you are feeling the shift.